For the radio audience, I think there's, to be honest, 7, 8 teams should be favorites. In the NFC, Detroit, Green Bay, San Francisco, I'm high on the Rams. In the AFC, the Texans, the Bills, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Kansas City, and the Ravens. I think 4 teams are just on the outside. I've got a question I need to see resolved. Philadelphia, love the roster, love the quarterback, love almost everything. Ownership, GM. I'm a little worried about the coach and the quarterback relationship and the coach overall. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's health. I wish I had the Jets' defense and Miami's offense as one team, but they're so good at one thing. Jets' defense, Miami offense, I'll keep them on the periphery, but there's hope here. So there you go. 8 in the bubble and 4 on the outside. This may change. We always have a surprise team, but that feels right. I really think the Texans have a legitimate chance to get to a conference championship. They have turned that franchise around with the right coach, the right GM, and the right quarterback. All these teams have one thing in common. They have a good quarterback. I know, Brock Purdy, but he has 111 passer rating. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a star, but he's a good quarterback. But they don't all have an established, proven coach. We don't know what Robert Saleh really is. But tonight, what you're seeing, frankly, is what the model of the league is. Chiefs-Ravens, the 2 winningest teams in this sport since the Patrick Mahomes era started.
Okay, well, I guess he's not going to just talk about that game, and I just want to talk about this, this Super Bowl bubble. Okay, so I got some issues with this. It's not a bad bubble by no means, and I'm on the fence of who I would want to switch out, but without a doubt, the Eagles are in the bubble. They are not on the outside looking in. They're just not. There's no way, from my viewpoint, and I would either replace them with the Bills or the Rams. I'm not sure. I have major questions about the Bills, quite frankly, and I'm high on the Rams as well. But I just there's just no way that I'm going to put that Eagles team is just so stacked, and there are question marks about the Eagles. So it's not like the worst thing to have them on that edge. And then maybe after the next couple of weeks you put them in there, but just to leave them out. And again, I don't feel the need to kind of follow this line of like, well, there could only be 8 teams in the bubble. Like, no, I'm going to put as many teams as I think are in the bubble. And so even if I don't switch out any teams, I'm definitely going to put the Eagles in there. I do think the Bengals should still be on the outside, and the Dolphins and the Jets, because they do have a lot more to prove, quite frankly. And it is kind of confusing as to like, what's going on with Jamar Chase, and what's going on with Joe Burrow, right? Like, is he fully healthy? Is like, can he stay healthy? Like what's the story with that? And it's a understandable question. And same thing with the Jets. Like, who is Aaron Rodgers? And you guys all know that I'm a firm believer in what the Jets can do, but they do got to prove it, right? Before you just kind of casually put them in that bubble. And the Dolphins, I think that's a good place for the Dolphins. They're not inside the bubble. They haven't really gotten anywhere close to making you believe that they could win big games in the playoffs. And that's what this season is about, is proving that they can do that. So quite frankly, they're going to be on the outside of the bubble the whole season. I mean, even if they just win game after game after game after game, honestly, like, they could win the next 14 games in a row and you would still question it, quite frankly, unless Tua is looking like an absolute beast. And I don't mean just statistically, because he puts up amazing numbers, but he is just looking like a beast. What that actually looks like on the film, it could be a few things, quite frankly. But if he just looks truly dominant, then you could be like, okay, you could maybe have a little bit more confidence saying, I think things have changed. I think Tua has turned the page and has really evolved into a top quarterback. But until that's proven, I think that's a perfect spot for them. Of course, the Houston Texans are in there. The Packers, the Lions, without a doubt. Kansas City Chiefs, of course, without a doubt. The 49ers belong in there as well. I have a question mark about the Ravens as well. I wouldn't take them out of the bubble. I'd put them on like the edge of the bubble, quite frankly. And again, I'm high on the Ravens too. This is not a knock on the Ravens, but I still struggle with how last season went. When a team is just clearly can't perform in the playoffs, that's when it makes me start to be like, I don't know. How can I trust you? How can I have any type of confidence in you? That's the difference. That's the fundamental problem to the Ravens. And again, it's similar to the Dolphins, until they prove that they can be dominant in the playoffs in a game that actually matters, not taking advantage of a rookie quarterback and a super young team, doing it against a serious contender like the Chiefs, like the Bills, with Lamar Jackson looking truly comfortable start to finish. It's a hard sell right now. And it's not to say that they can't change it. It's not to say that there's any doubt that they will be able to. It's just they don't get the benefit of the doubt, quite frankly. Like the Chiefs deserve the benefit of the doubt. The Chiefs can go 6-3, right? And you would still be like, I like their chances. They're a good team. And come time playoffs, you're just not going to doubt them. You're just not. And you would be silly to. That's the difference. One team deserves to kind of get the benefit of the doubt, while the other team doesn't, right? Even if the Chiefs win, even if the Chiefs get crushed tonight, and this is going to post today, so yeah, tonight on Thursday, even if they get crushed, you would still give them the benefit of the doubt. You would still just say, it was one game. That's one game. It's the Chiefs. They'll figure it out. They always do. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they got this. Whereas if the Ravens crush them, you're going to be like, yeah, that was a great game, but like, I don't know. We just got to see if they can do it, at the end of the season. Can they do it in the playoffs? That's what you're going to say. And on the other end of it, if the Chiefs dominate and crush the Ravens, you're going to say that's what the Chiefs do, man. They're just so dominant. They're such a powerhouse team. And if the Ravens now, if you're looking at it from the Ravens perspective and the Ravens get dominated and get crushed, you're going to say, oh my God, they just can't beat the Chiefs. They can't beat the top teams in the NFL. They just can't. They can't beat these top AFC teams. And you can't blame the people for speaking like that. You just can't. That's what the Chiefs have earned. And unfortunately, that's what the Ravens have earned. So I'm really curious to see how this changes. I'm really curious to see with some of the changes that the Ravens have made, and also if Lamar Jackson has made any changes. What is going to be the approach? I fail to see how they're going to just keep going forward in the same ways that Lamar has been going. Lamar is obviously great. He's elite. He's a top quarterback in the NFL. But it's also clearly proving to not be enough. So what changes? Because if I was Lamar Jackson after that game, I would find the coach that I trust more than anything, whoever that may be. Maybe it's Harbaugh, maybe it's someone else. I don't know. Maybe it's someone that's not even on the, with the Ravens, right? Maybe it's someone else. You go to them and be like, how can I be better? How can I finally achieve what I'm meant to achieve? How can I get to this next level? What am I missing? What is missing from my game? What do I need to change? Or any of my strengths? Do I need to elevate my strengths even more? Like, what do I need to do? And that's what I would be focused on. Because I would just be like, enough. I can't do this anymore. Enough. I can't be held out on an island to just drown anymore. I can't. I'm not doing this anymore. I got to be better. I got to get better. I will be better. And it just can't look like what it's looked like then. It's got to be like this next evolution. So that I'm really excited to see. And of course, we get to see that game today. We get to see what does it look like. Obviously, it's going to be a tough matchup because it's week 1 and it's against the Chiefs. So I'm not going to put too much stock into it, but it's still going to be interesting nonetheless. I'm curious to see if we'll be able to kind of get anything from that. And again, the Green Bay Packers, I think, are a top team in the NFL. Jordan Love, I think, is going to ball out. The Packers are going to ball out. I think it's also a tough matchup against the Eagles. I think no matter who wins that game, it's going to be tough to draw any strong conclusions. Because maybe the Eagles are just a really great team. Maybe they end up being a top 2 team in the NFL, and they make the Packers not look as good because of how great the Eagles are. Or vice versa. Maybe the Packers truly, Jordan Love and the Packers prove to be a top team in the NFL, absolutely elite, Super Bowl contender the whole season, and they make the Eagles not look as good. So it's gonna be tricky to draw too many conclusions, which could be similar for the Ravens and the Chiefs game. The Lions, you guys know, I can't get any higher on the Lions. I think that team and that roster is also stacked. Everything that they're doing there with Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, and now what they were able to add defensively, when they can bring up the floor of their defense, as long as their offense just remains the same, that's already a Super Bowl team. Let alone this offense is clearly also going to progress even more as well, and it's just like, how could you ever count them out? CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans, they are also a stack. There's just so many stacked teams. That's what's crazy. I don't know how they've done it, but there's just so many stacked teams. Houston Texans, I think, also stacked. I think it's hard to imagine CJ Stroud taking any type of regression. Again, like I always say in any of these videos, and this will probably be the last time I have to say this, none of this dumb, sophomore year slump, and now that they have film on him, okay, well, guess what? We're about to see them all have film on him, and we're still going to see CJ Stroud ball out and the Houston Texans be elite. So I can't wait to just make fun of all those takes. Get out of here. Miss me with that nonsense. The Texans are here. They're a great team. Accept it. I know you struggle to do it, but CJ Stroud is for real, and the Texans are for real. And yeah, the 49ers. Colin is kind of giving me whiplash because he had a whole segment kind of about, Brock Purdy not being good enough and this or that. And now he's a good quarterback, which Colin has been a little consistent on that. He's admitted that he doesn't think that Purdy's trash. And when Purdy played well in the playoffs and kind of carried the team, like he said Jimmy Garoppolo can't do that. Like he did give Purdy his flowers, but there still seems to be a lot of doubt around Purdy. And the truth is that, and Colin talked about this like literally yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, the processing speed and power of Brock Purdy. That is a superpower. It is an absolute superpower, and you combine that with a Shanahan, with the genius and intellect of Shanahan, and it's just, this is what you get. You get the 49ers. So we don't have to doubt it. It's like, it seems like people are still waiting for Brock Purdy to turn into this pumpkin. Like he's going to be a disaster. And the truth is maybe he's not as good when he doesn't have as good of a coordinator or an offensive head coach. And maybe he's not as good when you're down Debo and Christian McCaffrey and everyone else. But again, he doesn't have to be elite without those guys because those guys exist, okay? So we don't have to grade him on any other scale. If we were trying to figure out, is he an all-time GOAT? Is he one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live? Then yes, we can absolutely go through his whole resume in every single game and all the gifts or, that he's been given, and we can use that against him when we're trying to figure out who is the GOAT. To me, that is completely fair. It is completely fair to nitpick every little thing Mahomes has or hasn't done, who he has or doesn't have. Same thing with Brady, same thing with Manning. Like when you're having those conversations, talking about MJ, LeBron, well, who has MJ had on his team? Who has LeBron had on his team? It's totally a fair game. We're not having that conversation around Brock Purdy. So to kind of nickel and dime him for every tiny little advantage that he has, I don't think is fair. Not to mention, to think that anyone can do what he can do with that team is just nonsense. It's just not accurate. And I love this example when they keep saying, well, look at his record or how he plays without Debo, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, how well do we think Patrick Mahomes would be if we also take Travis Kelce, like his big time security blanket tight end, right? Like we know that when you take any big weapon away from a wide receiver or from a quarterback, they're not going to play as well. Again, not to mention, fine, if we don't want to say that Brock Purdy is an all-time great or the number 2 quarterback in the NFL, doesn't mean that he has to now drop to like the bottom 5, which is what a lot of people do. They use Purdy as a reference to say, if he's not top 2, then he's clearly bottom 5. There's just like no in between with him, and it's hard for me to make sense of. I think I hit all the teams. The Bills, like I said, they're a question mark to me as well, as same as the Rams. They're definitely, I'm confident about teams like the Packers, like the Lions, like the Texans, like the Chiefs, that I don't really need to see a lot going into this season. I'm just confident that they're going to be a great team. Same, I think if I left out the 49ers, I mistake. But with the Bills, the Ravens, the Rams, the Jets, the Bengals, the Dolphins, and, I think the Eagles are halfway for that. I just have to wait and see. I really need to see a handful of games to see what this looks like. Does Josh Allen have rapport with his wide receivers? His newer offensive coordinator, like what is the plan? We saw what his plan was for those last 6 or 7 games, however many games it was. What does he have when he has a full offseason? What has he been working on with Josh Allen? What is the approach? What is the game plan? Do they continue the trend that they did at the end of last season, or is it going to be something different, right? Like those are all real question marks. What does the defense look like for the Rams? Can Matthew Stafford stay healthy? How does Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp look now that they're both 100% healthy and going to be integrated together, playing ideally a full season together? What does that look like? What does Tua look like now that he's gotten paid? Was he holding back a little bit because he wanted to make sure that he didn't get a concussion, that he didn't get injured before he got his big payday? Is he now going to take more risks? All of those are valid questions. Aaron Rodgers, what is he going to look like? I believe he's going to be fully recovered, but like, what does he actually look like? All justifiable questions that you just really kind of have to wait and see. So all in all, I think this is a good bubble. As I'm saying all this, I keep trying to think, is there a team I'm forgetting? Is there a team? I really need a list of all the teams. It is so hard to remember every single team in these types of moments. Like I'll just try to think. The Bucks don't deserve to be there. I'm trying to think. The Jaguars don't deserve to be there. Definitely not the Cowboys, not the Commanders, and they're not Super Bowl. You could maybe make the argument that the Chicago Bears, I think the Chicago Bears are off the screen. They're like looking at it. They're looking at the Bengals and the Jets and the Dolphins, right? They're in that like little gray area, but they're not there just yet. To realistically win a Super Bowl, but I think that they deserve an honorable mention because of the team that they have and Caleb Williams. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin's Super Bowl bubble, as well as everything that I just said? I kind of hit a lot of points. You guys said you didn't mind longer videos, so kind of running with it. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.